So, Mr. Bob Horn, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. We just ate burritos from a gas station.
Yeah, and they were excellent.
They were absolutely...
Turned my ringer off.
They were absolutely amazing. How long have you been going to that spot?
Probably 11, 12 years.
Okay. How often do you think you go?
How often? Only like once, twice a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I usually go when there's someone else that wants that. Or
do you get the same thing every time?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, after the first 2 years, then I got the burrito that we got. But before then, I got tortas. But
okay.
Yeah.
So this room is beautiful, but you're leaving.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on, man.
Oh, well, we sold the studio, and I'm basically just wanting to consolidate my time and have a more streamlined process, and basically try to recreate this room or something like it in my house. So
yes,
that's my plan.
Okay, and then after that, you're moving into a new commercial studio you're working.
Well, I'll always have the studio at home, which I want to be pro level, but I will have the commercial facility, which I'll be a third owner in.
Okay,
and I may or may not have a room in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you may
that's kind of undecided. I might.
You may just keep your room at your house.
Right, and I think what I would probably do is do bulk of my work at home, and then use a commercial facility. Besides being an owner, just have my meetings there, and playback mixes for clients, or if I had to do any production with the client, do it there, and then do editing and stuff at home. Just have that flexibility,
So when you go into your house, are you intending to take all this beautiful gear with you?
Yeah.
Everything's
absolutely.
going. Are you going to add anything new?
Maybe I might add some speakers, might add some near fields. I don't know if I'm going to add. I do want a stereo Pultec. Just one set of knobs, but 2 channels. And I do want this that you brought. I want to steal that from you.
This is this Army Man compressor is a thing, right, man? You're one of the few people now who have heard it.
Yeah.
What's your verdict?
My verdict is that it's one of those special things that we used to, we hear about from people that are high up in the industry that use things like coveted gear, like Fairchilds and stuff. It just has that magic, seemingly not doing very much, but it's just like, you just hear it and you're like, yes, like that is... It's like going from a $200 microphone to a $10,000 microphone. It's like, that is a difference. It just kind of reaffirms your faith in the non-plug-in world. Like, obviously, we love plugins and all that, and you're like, oh, shit. It's like, there's a reason for coming out of the box, and there it is, So, like, that's why, like, all my gear, I don't have typical stuff a lot of guys have. I have stuff that I've A-B'd personally and heard the sound of and know that there's not a plugin that does it, and there's a benefit for coming out of the box. Like my Locomotive 14B, there's not a plugin yet that does that thing. So if I don't need that thing, I'm not coming out of the box for anything, But as soon as I hear that in my head, I go to it, So
if you got a stereo ganged Pultec, would that replace your pair of Pultecs over
there?
No,
those are still good for the mono stuff. I just want something that maybe I could put on the 2-bus. I've always, since I went hybrid, I've been against putting analog gear on the 2-bus because of recall.
Yes.
Because anything on my individuals, I print and commit it, But it might be worth doing. I don't know. But at the very least, I just want one. So.
I can definitely get behind that. Change is exciting and change is good, man. And you seem in relatively good spirits about the whole thing. So I'm excited to see how this goes for you, man.
Absolutely, me too. It's a little scary, but I know I'll work something out, and
I think it's going to be wonderful, man.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to turn out really good.
So tell us a little bit about what you've been working on. What have you been up to?
So I've actually, the last couple months, I've been producing more than mixing, and that's not something I do often. But I've always dabbled in it occasionally because I grew up as a musician, and I just feel like being creative sometimes. So I'll find myself making beats sometimes just for fun when I'm inspired, and then I'll play bass on a record for somebody or guitar. And then occasionally I have people that be like, hey, produce this song, And So I've been working with 2 country artists. One is John Widowmaker, and the other is this guy Seth Anthony. And yeah, so I've just been working on that stuff, and it's interesting because it's not what I would call straight up country. It's country infused with kind of modern, more urban things like 808s and programmed drums mixed, with live elements. So like live acoustic guitar, electric guitar. We're gonna put some slide guitar and some stuff, maybe some country fiddle, but then everything else below it is programmed like deep bass and 808s and stuff like that. So it's been a fun thing. We're gonna do a long writing session in March, and so that's what I've been doing mostly, and then a couple singles here and there mixing wise.
That's really really cool to hear, man.
Yeah.
Are you intending to mostly try and go down this lane? You said you're working with 2 artists that are kind of like that.
It just happened.
Okay.
Just the person that brought the projects to me had both guys, and they were out here working together, like not collaborating together, but one guy would do a session in the afternoon, another guy would do a session at night, and using the same producers and writers and jumping around camps and jumping studios. And I had them over here for a couple of days, and yeah, I just got asked to go in on it and make some production, and it was a lot of fun. So I want to keep going with that for a while with those 2 guys. And that's another thing that I feel like having a nice home studio will allow me to dedicate some more time to production. That's not necessarily a gig. So if I want to, do a production like a spec production for an artist, just to kind of like try out, or just because I'm not known as a producer, I'm known as a mixer, But all my friends are like, produce, like you're good at it, produce. So I want to give it more opportunity. So if I have more time at home, when I'm not mixing a song, what I can dedicate to that, I think it might be cool.
Well, let's have a real conversation. Production's where the money is.
Oh, yeah.
And
sure.
It's hard because I, like you, have been labeled myself a mixer, and it's one of those things where I also took the step back and I found a few artists and spent the past year producing them and getting their records ready. And we have a record now. He actually plays in the band of one of the artists.
Oh, nice.
That, we've gone through the point of going and getting independent financing and putting together money to go and market the project independently. And it's gotten all sorts of weird with him getting, multiple management offers and multiple label deals already for super bad deals because he hasn't released any music because no one knows who he is. But, they all want him to put their music out and give them half of the royalties and stuff. And so it's interesting, like trying to navigate these waters with a young artist with them, because I've been in the industry on the side that I think that you and I both know very well for so long, and we have our own trials and tribulations to go through and these things that we have to watch out for. But artists, people are definitely out for their throat.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. It's the hardest thing for a new artist to break.
Yes.
So that's why the times in my life where I've dabbled in it, I would always get back into mixing, and then I get booked for 3 weeks straight, and I kind of production I just kind of push to the side. It's like, I'll do some more of that later in life, But I think since I might be providing myself with more time, I think it could just happen naturally,
And I think that that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and it's just good for the soul to be musical, when you have that stuff in you and you're not releasing it, it's like you're trying to release it in a mix, and it's like that you can only do so much before you get fired,
Yes, absolutely. You start adding guitar parts and
right,
stuff.
you can't break out the bass and do new parts,
Well, that's very, very exciting. I'm super happy to hear that, and you look very happy right now. And that makes me feel so good, man. You look wonderful, and, you can feel change in the air when you're around you right now. And I'm super excited to see how this goes. And one of those things that's happening is you're buying a new house. I've heard you say a little bit about that. You don't have to give like too much detail, but, you got to be pretty excited about that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's a great journey. I got married, not even a year ago. And
see, I didn't know that you were only married recently. I met your wonderful wife. I had no idea.
I've been with her for 18 years.
Okay.
But we just got married.
You just got married.
Yeah.
How'd
So-
you pull that one off?
I just made her wait.
I-
No, I mean, like,
I'm at 12 years. How do I get to 18?
oh, you just keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going. No, I mean, bless her heart. She traveled a lot for work until the pandemic, and then you know how busy we are in the studios, and you know, going years back, younger and younger, I would spend more and more time during the studios. Now I try to go home at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, but I used to stay always every day till 5 a.m. You know.
Yep.
So with her out of town and me, you know, living this life of just being in the studio, we just never got married. Like we were just always together, and we started living together, and it's like, should we get married? And we're like, oh, is it just a piece of paper? Does it matter? And then the pandemic happened, and then it feels like either people got closer or they got divorced or broke up, you know, with their significant others. Like either got closer or further apart.
Yep.
Because of the pandemic, because they're spending so much time with someone. So March 2020, when the pandemic really set in, I started mixing like crazy. I was just getting calls like insane. And between March and October 1st, I mixed 125 songs. And I had a stroke October 1st.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that,
Yeah,
dude.
and it was life-changing. You know, it's like I was eating like crazy. I used to be a lot heavier and eating all the bad stuff and sitting in this chair all the time and working around the clock, not sleeping, not eating breakfast, just not taking care of myself, just all about the work, you know? And yeah, so that was just kind of a real, like, just stop everything and like regroup, figure out what you got to do. And luckily I recovered, you know, 100% and, you know, just changed my life and like restructured and just went about it a better way.
You said that happened October 1st of last year?
October 1st, 2020. So
20.
2 years ago.
That's right when we all became friends.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess Clubhouse, I started getting on Clubhouse around January.
Yeah.
So I had my stroke, I recovered, started mixing again a little bit, but I was only coming here a few hours a day.
Okay.
Just kind of put my toe back in. And that's when we all got on Clubhouse and all that, you know.
Yeah.
And I told this story on Clubhouse a few times, but basically, my wife and I, we just grew closer together. And after, you know, once we got to April, it was coming up on our anniversary, and I just felt like, you know, I just need to do this. I just need to make the commitment, the gesture, you know. So we went to Hawaii for our anniversary, and I proposed on the beach, and, you know, I just turned it into this whole thing. And it's like, I don't know, it was a good thing. Originally it was something I felt like it's just a piece of paper. You don't need to get married because we're together and we're never going to break up, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, there's something to it. Let's do it, you know.
And that's amazing, you know. And you do seem really genuinely happy right now.
Yeah.
Like that's the big thing I could take away from hanging out with you today. It's like, man, Bob seems so happy. And that is a good feeling. And I'll say this. You seem to have been able to even put off getting the ring for 18 years. I had to get the ring like years ago, dude.
Yeah.
I'm putting off the wedding now. I'm in the engagement.
Well, I got to say, like, going that long, the surprise factor was at its height. It's like she had no idea, you know.
That's amazing. I tell Jenny we can go to the courthouse any day of the week, and she just gets all pissed off about that. So, hi, Jenny. So, you know, you've had, you know, tons and tons of success out of this room. Tell us what you're excited to do about your new spot. We've been throwing around some ideas. The attack wall.
Yeah, so just temporary while I build out the garage, because I may not even start that right away. But eventually, I got a nice huge garage, and I want to do a lounge, vocal booth, and control room. But I want to do it on this level, you know. But I can't do that, you know, the very month I move in. So I'm going to get the ASC attack wall and start with that and just set up in the living room, you know.
Yep.
And we don't have a bunch of kids running around or anything. We don't need our living room. It's fine. So I'll set up in the living room and keep everything, probably do a different desk and same speakers, might add some near fields. But, yeah, I don't know. It's not a lot's going to change. I mean, same signal flow, mostly in the box, a little bit of hybrid stuff, you know.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's hop into it. let's start with the top 5. What's the number one equalizer in the box?
Number one equalizer in the
Yeah,
box
for you.
for me is the MBEQ.
Really?
Yeah.
And you don't have to say that just because we're friends.
No, I mean, I feel like a lot of people would say the Sontec that you also make.
Yep.
But for me, that's number 2.
Okay.
So for me, it's MB, Sontec, and then after that, Metric Halo, and then the Pro Q3 by a Fab Filter.
Okay. And I'll say this. I will, I got to point out, I watched from the back, super proud from the couch with Drew. You were showing other people quick keys on MBEQ. I was just like,
I don't even know if I know them all. I probably don't even know them all. But
yeah, we got a new one coming in there, which is a hotly contested feature, which is, the scroll wheel Q.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that everybody keeps going on.
that's
about.
great. I use that on the Metric Halo.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're very, very excited that you like it. Tell us what you dig about it. I know that you are a fan of running it with and without sauce, which is something.
Yeah. So the sauce button, I only use that if I'm gonna push it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will push that. Lately, I've been enjoying that on some percussion stuff. Surprisingly enough, just surprising to me. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times I like it without the sauce button because just the EQ sitting there, even with no cut or boost, has a sound to it.
Yes.
And it does something, just a tonal thing that I like. And I have 4 summing masters going to my Rupert Neve Orbit.
Okay.
And I put MBEQs strapped all across all of them. And some of them, at the end of the mix, I might do a couple things, like on the drum bus, I might add some high end or something. But even if I never EQ anything, just having them there without the sauce button has a sound that I like.
That is amazing to hear.
Yeah, and it's and I hear it. It's like I pull up a track, listen to that track, and be like, does that need EQ? No, it needs that MBEQ thing without the sauce.
Yep.
And I'll just put it on, and sure enough, it just has this little change, Like I don't even know what exactly that is, but it I don't know. It's just like it came from a different source suddenly, but just very slightly.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about because that's one of those things that I was using channel strip for, and
Okay.
I wanted to make, when we were talking to Josh earlier and he asked me about, why isn't there anti-aliasing or why is there cramping and stuff like that? It's like, well, channel strip exhibited these things and it sounds wonderful to my ears. And I love the box tone of channel strip and I wanted to make sure that it did the same thing. So it's very nice that you appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. What's funny is I thought getting that, because I've always wanted the EQ only of channel strip.
Yes.
I always wanted that. And I wanted a bigger view of that. And you gave it to us. But to me, I still have a use for both not because of the compressor or the gate of channel strip, just sound-wise, they are different.
Yes.
And I'm actually kind of thankful for that. It's like, I thought it was going to replace it when we were talking about it and I didn't have it in my hands yet. I thought, oh, well, I'm not going to use channel strip anymore. But I actually use both,
Yeah, and for me, I'm the exact same way. Like, nothing could ever replicate Metric Halo's channel strip. And there's certain things that I made sure were very, very similar. Like 12K at the standard, shelf, or 10K at the standard shelf. That's exactly the way it is in channel strip. Because that's a very, very particular thing that I'm looking for. But it handles certain things, in very, very subtle ways, but they are, some places it's leaner, some places it's thicker, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that's amazing to hear that you're using it.
Yeah, that, and then the Sontec is just unbeatable. That thing is a beast.
Where do you like to use it? Are you using it across the mix, or?
Occasionally I do, but I rock the Sontec on just individual instruments. And some of my favorite things are boosting the 12K, boosting 50 hertz, cutting 50 hertz, but like extreme. So like going to a vocal and pulling out 4 dB at 50 hertz as a shelf. That's a totally different thing than using a filter.
Yes.
At the same whatever frequency. And so those are some of the things I do a lot. I cut lower mids a lot with the Sontec, like 2 to 400. And then when I feel like something is too dipped, I like to push between 800 and 2K, like that range. I'm loving on the Soundtech. And other than that, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'll find myself using some of the higher frequencies. I don't use the 4 or 5K range very much unless I'm cutting.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll use it on any instrument.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't really found something where it's like I always use it on this or always, it's like whatever.
But
yeah,
but it seems like it's an option for you, and that's good
yeah,
to hear.
absolutely.
What about your favorite compressor in the box?
Favorite compressor. This is gonna be funny. My favorite compressor recently is Compreskimo, which is a free slider compressor. It's hilarious. It has this little Eskimo, and you slide him closer to a fire, and it's more compressed. But the algorithm, it just sounds good. And it's really good. So the last 2 weeks, that's my favorite.
Where are you using Compreskimo?
What's that?
Where are you using Compreskimo?
I use a lot on vocals. Like if I
okay.
have 50 background vocals, they all get compressed.
Just throw them to a bus and then just throw them on
No,
there?
individually.
Individually.
Yeah. So here one thing about me is I go very light on bus compression as far as background vocals are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in addressing them individually because it's way different, and you can achieve a better sound 90% of the time, in my opinion, by going individual, especially de-essing. You de-ess as a group, it's not going to be as good. If you auto-tune as a group, it's horrible.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and if you compress as a group, it's okay, but I actually prefer individual and then a bus compressor just a little bit,
Okay.
I know a lot of people, they just do the bus to save time, and that's great, but if you have the time, going in individually works so much better. And I don't mean if you have two of the same note, you EQ them different. You can copy the EQ, but just something about processing individually and then to the bus, you just get a higher fidelity. That's
Okay.
what I've noticed. But in all seriousness, as far as my favorite compressor, I think the Al Schmidt Leapwing compressor on the vocal setting is incredible. I think Slider Man, which is a lesser known plugin, it's basically the DBX 163X.
Okay.
And that thing is incredible. I really like the KH comp by Black Rooster Audio.
Okay.
That one's phenomenal. And then I use a lot of the UAD 1176.
Which one's your favorite one?
I think the Rev E, maybe?
The blackface one.
The black one, yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. So I'd say those are a lot of my go-tos. I kind of mix it up. It's like once I learn the sonic signature of a plugin and get that in my head, when I come across a track and, I unmute a guitar and I hear it, I'll first of all decide if it needs anything, but then I'll hear in my head, it's like, oh yeah, that needs Acoustica's taupe, and I'll go get it. And.
So when you're working on stuff, I guess this is backtracking a little bit, but when you get a new piece of gear, do you ever go back through your work and you can just hear where you use that thing on fucking everything and drove it home while you were learning it? And then, after you learn it, you kind of like put it away for a while and then, figure out how to use
It'll just fade back to less usage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's when the Fukushima power plant blew up, I invited 10 bands from Omaha to record songs for charity. And I recorded those songs and then gave them out for free on the internet. There were a bunch of big bands in Omaha at the time, so like Little Brazil and a bunch of people. And I had recently got a Lexicon 224.
Okay.
So if you want to hear some songs with some reverb they shouldn't fucking have.
That's probably how I am with Compreskimo right now.
So what about limiters? What's your favorite limiter?
So limiters, I like the Pro L2 by Fab Filter. Limitless DMG Invisible Limiter by AOM. What else am I using? I use a bunch of clippers. Like I like the T-Rex Classic Clipper, K-Clip 3 by Kazrog. I use those two a lot. Sometimes even the old L1, I'll use that occasionally. Standard clip. I forget who makes that. It's the blue.
The blue and yellow one.
It's blue and like white or something.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say I rotate between all of those. Um, there's a, let's see, what is it? The Lursen mastering console plugin that has a limiter in it, but I'm not necessarily when I use that, I don't necessarily use it for that limiter. It just happens to have one.
Do you use
But
that
it's pretty
across your mix?
transparent. Sometimes there's certain mixes like I kind of choose my master bus after listening to the song and the rough mix, and I get a vibe, and it's not necessarily genre specific. It's just kind of sonic specific. So depending on what the tracks sound like, their recordings and once I hear the raw files, I kind of imagine a finish line. And then when I do that, I kind of hear is like, okay, is that God Particle, or is that Lursen Mastering Compressor, or is that Limitless, or is that Pro L2? And most of the time I pick it and I'm right, Occasionally I'll change it later, but yeah, I mean they all have their thing. And lately I've been using a lot of just the Fab Filter Pro L2,
Okay.
and good math in front of it, and yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of Pro L2 with good math in front of it as well. That gets used a lot in my house.
I was astounded because I didn't update to Pro L2 until like a few months ago. I was astounded by how much different and, in my opinion, better it was from Pro L1.
Yeah, and my favorite thing is I still love to use the Pro L1 presets with the Pro L2 algorithms.
Oh,
like they've got the folder full of presets, and I'll just go use those and then change the algorithms around. It's like, yep, these are nice. So, the next question I have is, what is your favorite delay in the box?
Favorite delay? Okay, so I really like Relayer by, oh my goodness, why am I blanking? UVI.
Okay.
That plugin is really cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff, like put an envelope filter on just the second note of the feedback, like weird stuff like that. And
interesting.
Its interface is really cool and creative. Also, it's just called Tape Echo by IK Multimedia.
Yep.
The sound of that is really good.
That's the one that's like crappy tapes, right? Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and there's just a bunch that things like that just have cool sounds to them. I like some of those plugins by Output, like Movement. Some of those have some cool delays in it. Some of their stuff. Timeless by Fab Filter is pretty cool.
Timeless is great. I love the filtering. Timeless.
The old, Echo Boy and Crystallizer. Crystallizer has a great delay under their Echo presets. I think it's called Echoplex 300 milliseconds.
Interesting.
And that's a great delay just to mix in with reverbs and stuff.
I want to try that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Crystallizer is one of those things where you kind of got to read the manual as you're turning knobs, because you turn a knob and you're like, okay. What the fuck did that do? It can definitely run away from you. So what about reverb? What's your favorite reverbs in the box?
Oh my God, there's so many. My favorite underdog reverb that I just love the sound of the early reflections is Sonsig. Sonsig is a recreation of the Rev 7, I believe.
Okay.
And it's made by Relab, the people that make the 480 recreation.
Okay.
But it's a separate plugin.
I didn't know that.
I really like that. I really like my Bricasti hardware. Sometimes I blend those two. Man, there's so many good ones. I love all the Valhalla stuff.
Which one's your favorite Valhalla?
Vintage Verb and Room. Actually, Vintage Verb, Room, and Plate. I use them all probably evenly.
Okay. Which color do you like it to be?
Oh, I like the 1970s most often.
The orange
but I
one.
do EQ it afterwards.
What do you like to do?
What's that?
What do you like to do to it?
Oh, I usually just thin it out a little bit.
Okay. Do you thin out most of your reverbs?
No, mostly just the Vintage Verb. But thinning it out, it sounds different than just putting it on the now setting or the 1980 setting. So I like the 70 setting thinned out a little bit. And also like Ultraverb. I have my impulse responses from the Echo Bar here. I have Rick Carson's Vocal Verb, which is something you told me about. I forget what it is, but you told me about it on Clubhouse. I made a preset and I saved it.
Yep.
And then there's a all air Neve room that I really like on that Ultraverb. Ultraverb's a great plugin.
It's a great plugin.
Yeah. There's so many good reverbs. The Neoverb by Isotope is cool. The thing about reverbs is sometimes you think you're going to use a reverb you always go to, and then it just doesn't sit in the mix right. So then you find yourself using a reverb that you didn't even think about, but it's just try them. I'll strap on like 5 reverbs and be like, that's what I usually use, and it's okay. Well, how's this one? No. I was like, wow, that's the best one. And then that's one I go with, you know?
Do you ever find yourself just like with the reverb send cranked way higher than it should be, scrolling through presets?
No, I tend to do a lot of my sends at 0, and then I turn the return down, which I know that's kind of backwards for some people, and definitely not the way we used to do on the consoles. But it just works for me, and there's something about it that's sonically different than the other way.
See, I feel like it's a 2-part process for me. So it's like the reverb needs to be mixed into the reverb from the aux sends. You know what I mean? And then if someone calls and they're like, hey, turn the reverb down, then I could turn the reverb down, and I have saved that step to be able to go and have all of the vocals at their actual blend to the reverb.
Yeah.
But you probably are in a position where, you know, you didn't just upgrade from Mountain Lion, and you've probably had like lots of processing power for a long time.
The other thing that I don't do is the method of having a reverb and sending tons of different things to it, like a vocal, a guitar, a snare drum. You know, they all have their own reverb plugins.
Everything gets their own reverb.
Yeah, not individual vocals. I'll have the backgrounds will have theirs, the leads will have theirs, but the guitars have their own. Even if it's the same verb, it's separate because most likely something will change that's different on that verb than this verb.
So do you tend to like to put things on, like your reverb plugin straight on a track and then use the wet dry? Or are you
I do both, but with verbs, typically not.
See, I am a very big fan of the fact that a lot of reverbs have wet dries on them now.
Yeah.
Because I love distorting shit after I put reverb on it. So it's like, put it on there, put like a blend that's 80% dry and 20% wet, and then put a Big Muff after it, and he's Big Muffing a basement man instead of just Big Muff man, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of. Reverb's cool.
Yeah.
If you had to get rid of one of them, reverb or delay, what would it be?
Get rid of one?
Yeah, you could. You got to get rid of one of them. It's never coming back.
I'd probably get rid of Avid Mod Delay.
No. You got to get rid of the whole fucking concept of one or the other. You only
get rid of all reverb or all delay. I'd get rid of reverb.
Yeah, because you could make reverbs with all your delays.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, my guy.
Yeah. But I can get depth out of a dry record.
Absolutely.
You know.
With compression.
Just balancing compression in general, you know. So I don't mind dry. Sometimes I love it. One of my favorite presets on the Bricasti is called Percussive Air. Is it percussion or percussive? I don't know. But I think it's Percussive Air. And it's the shortest room, like it's probably 30 milliseconds long. But if you put that on a vocal and crank it loud, it has a magic to it that's just like, I'm in a space, but I'm not in a space, but I am. It's just something really cool about it. Yeah.
That's really cool to hear. Do you have any other presets that really stick out from the Bricasti for you?
Tanglewood is Sunset Chamber. Probably my most used thing is Vocal Plate B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever use that A&M chamber?
A&M chamber? No. I know about it, but yeah, I don't think I ever settled on that one. I probably just didn't give it a chance.
I like it. It's very, do you ever have a reverb that you just feel like has tons of character and is like makes something feels like an old smoky record?
Sure, yeah.
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 That chamber does it for me.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
It's an interesting box. I enjoy my Bricasti a lot, you know. You have a plate over there. You didn't just hide a plate in your closet. You didn't tell anybody. None of us knew you had a plate. You know, are you going to miss it when it's gone?
I'll miss it a little bit. I forget about it a lot because it's in the closet, but it's an old, it came from Fox Scoring Stage, and the thing is just magical. There's no plugin that sounds like it. It's just got a heft to it, a thickness. And like, I don't know, you just hear the circuits. Like, it's just, you can tell you didn't pull up, you know, just a plugin. It's definitely something special about it. And what the most magical times I've ever used it, I blended it with other things, other reverbs, and just the mixture of them gave me kind of like this mixture of old school and new school, and it just has this velvety thing to it. So if they weren't, 8 feet long and 400 pounds, I'd take it with me.
Really? So do you have the opportunity to take it with you if you
No,
want?
I already sold it. But
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I was
I mean, where do you put a thing like that? And
I have a minivan.
Who do you get? It would break your minivan.
Call Justin.
Yeah. We'll throw it in the trailer behind the minivan.
That thing. Have you ever lifted one of those things?
The thing is, most people don't know this, but those EMTs were actually sold with metal rods that they came with that you stuck in the crossbars at the end because 4 dudes were supposed to lift them on their shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, 4 guys.
You put it under your shoulder and lift it up. Yeah.
Yeah, so Eric and I, we didn't have 4 guys, and we only had one of the metal rods. We don't know where the other one went.
Oh, fuck.
So we dismantled the thing.
What? Took all the wood sides off?
We took it apart.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I don't know if we videotaped it or what we did, but we got it back together, and luckily it works, and we got it serviced one time for new tubes. But yeah, we took that thing apart.
Clips and all?
No, we kept the frame with the plate itself.
Inside. Okay.
But just taking that out made it not as heavy.
Oh, my God. You're a braver man than I, Bob.
Yeah.
I'm glad you still have all your fingers and toes and that no one dropped a straight piece of sheet metal that you desperately tried to grab.
Right.
Well, I'm very excited to see what the future holds for you, and I'm very excited about, a lot of the stuff that you and I have been talking about. We won't tell these beautiful people too much now, but, hopefully there'll be some exciting things to be talking about here in the future together.
Absolutely.
So, let's stay in touch, and if there's anything you ever need from me, please just say the word, man.
Okay, of course. Thank you. Likewise.